Hello and welcome to my shop. Today I'd like to turn a pin from a deer antler. I'm not going to get into all of the details of, getting super detailed about sanding and all that stuff. I'm going to kind of brush over some of that stuff because you've seen it in a lot of my other videos and plenty of other videos from other wood turners or pin turners. So let me know what you think and let's get started. A friend of mine, Walter, sent me some deer antler from California, and in return I'm going to make an ink pen for Walter. What I'm going to do is, I've chosen to use a classic kit. I really like the classic. I'm going to be going with gunmetal. I'm going to try something. This is a small stock jointing sled, and those of you who have turned deer antler know antler can be kind of a pain to drill because it's not very easy to grip in your drill vise. So what I'm going to do is, and then I'm going to use it to hold the piece and be able to kind of square up the sides of the piece a little bit in an effort to get a better grip in my drill press vise. So this is the first time I've done this, but I don't know, it sounds like it might work. I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to film it, and I'm going to let you guys be the first to see what happens. So with that being said, I'd like to thank you for taking time to watch this video. Welcome to my shop, and let's get started and see what we can do. I picked out what I thought might be the best section of each of the antler pieces, and I cut them off on the bandsaw, and I tried to cut as flat as I could on the top and the bottom. Now this piece actually looks pretty good, but this one, you'll notice how curved it is. What I'm going to do is use my sled over here and try to get a straight cut down this side and a straight cut down this side. That'll allow me to get a really good grip with my drill press vise and hopefully hold it as straight and as steady as possible to be able to drill right down the center and get a good hole for my brass tube. I've got the antler piece locked down under one of the hold downs on the sled. I've got the blade raised to the proper height. Now I'm just going to start the saw and run it through. With this piece of the antler squared up, I now want to flip it over and try to square up the back section a little bit. Alright, now if we remove a piece of antler here and take a closer look, see how nice that is? Now I can get a good grip on it. There's plenty of room to get an 8mm hold down through there, but I can get a good grip on that with my my vise and hold it steady and hold it straight so that I can go straight down the center. When you take the curve out of the piece of antler, it just makes it easier to drill. It's just like a straight piece of wood now. I went ahead and squared up the other piece, and now I think you can see just how easy it's going to be to drill these two pieces of antler. I'm over at the drill press, and I actually drilled this out before I filmed, but here's one of the first pieces. And you can see there's plenty of meat on both sides of that to be able to get a bushing up against and turn a pin. So I've got the second piece chucked up. I'm just going to double check to make sure I've got it in there nice and straight. It looks pretty good, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drill this piece out. I sound a little funny while I'm talking. That's because I'm wearing a respirator. You don't want to drill out deer shed without wearing a respirator. And there you can see we've got perfect holes straight through. All that's left to do, I'm going to go ahead and glue these up, glue the tubes in, and we'll get to the lathe and get to turning. The glue is dried really well on the blanks. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to get my barrel trimmer, and I'm going to go ahead and trim them down so they're nice and flush, and then we're going to get them on the lathe and start turning them. I accidentally started truing up the antler before I turned my camera on, so I didn't get a chance to show you that part. There's nothing fancy there. It trues up just like wood. Anybody who's trued a wooden pen blank, it's going to be pretty much the same process. I'm going to go ahead and get my camera set up at a better angle, and then I'll finish truing up this, and I'll go ahead and turn the rest of this pin and show you guys how that works. I've moved my camera around to give you a little better view of what I'm doing. I'm just going to use a spindle gouge and basically rough this blank to pretty well to round, and then I'll make a decision whether I want to continue using this or whether I want to jump to a skew. I went ahead and used the roughing gouge and took the antler all the way down to just shy of the bushings. The spindle gouge is just working so well, I think I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to go ahead and finish truing up the back half of the blank and get it close to the bushings, and then we'll take a look at sanding and finishing. Alright, I'm real happy. I've got my blank right down. It's just a little fat of the bushings, which is fine because I'm going to do a little bit of sanding on this and go ahead and smooth it out. There's nothing overly exciting about the sanding process. I'm going to start out with 150, then I'm going to use a little 240, 320, 400, and then 600 grit paper to sand this down and get it smooth and looking nice. So I'm going to go ahead and shut the camera off. I'll take care of sanding this down, and then I'll come back and show you what I've got. I finished sanding the pen and it looks really good. I'm happy with how it's turning out. I've gone ahead and put my tool rest back on my lathe, and I've got a 10mm open-end wrench that I have ground the top down just a little bit to form a tenoning tool, because I need exactly a 10mm tenon for the dress-up ring for the pen. So I'm going to basically come in here, run the tool into the blank, and form a perfect 10mm tenon. Let me get set up and we'll show you how that works. First thing that I did is I went ahead and flipped this bushing around, because this end of the bushing is exactly 10mm, so you see my wrench will go right on there. And then the next thing I want to do is kind of guess about where I want to put my tenon. So I want a little bit of a lip down here, because the bottom part of the pin will slide into it. So I'm going to take it up just past the black ring. I know it's kind of hard to see the black ring with the lighting in my video, but I'm going to take it up to about here, and I'm going to mark it, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut my tenon. Alright, and now I have a perfect 10mm tenon. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this off, and I'm going to do a quick test fit just to make sure the trim ring fits nicely onto the pin. And that chrome ring, or trim ring, has a very nice fit on that pen. I'm real happy. I'm going to go ahead and get set up, and we're going to use a super glue finish on this to seal it and to really give it a nice appearance. I'm going to be using a super glue finish on this pen to protect it, and I've got some new bushings I'm going to try out. These are nylon bushings. They are from a company called Hold Fast, and they're a non-stick bushing for applying CA glue. The bushings are cone-shaped, so regardless of your tube size, you just lightly bring up your tailstock and they'll self-center and hold the bushing so that you can apply the super glue. Antler is very porous, so I'm going to start off by applying several coats of super glue with the lathe off, just by wiping the glue on from side to side. I'm going to let that kind of soak in, dry, fill some of the gaps, and then I'll apply a couple of layers with the lathe spinning. I'm using a thin CA glue, and even without an accelerator, it dries very quickly. So I'm going to put another coat or two on from side to side, and then we'll turn the lathe on and put a few coats on while it's spinning. My coats of super glue have dried, and I'm going to go ahead and turn the lathe on at a really low speed, and I'm going to put a couple of, maybe 3 more coats on. I'm going to let that dry, and then I'm going to lightly sand it off. Want to give it a couple of seconds to dry, and I can turn the lathe off and feel that it is pretty well dried. So let's go ahead, 2 more coats, and then we'll do some sanding. All right, I'm just going to let this sit for a minute and dry, and then I'm going to go ahead and kind of take it off with some sandpaper that I would normally use on acrylic pens. For sanding, I'm going to use some micro mesh paper, and this paper goes from 1500 to 12,000. I'm just going to run through the grits. I think there's about 8 or 9 different grits here, and I'm just going to lightly buff over this, take any rough areas off, smooth it out, it'll polish it up, and then I'll hit it with 2 to 3 more coats of super glue or CA glue to give it its final protective coat. I'm going to be running the lathe at about 500 RPMs for the sanding process. I'll show you the first piece and the last piece as I finish up, but I won't make you sit through the boring process of sanding the blank. Micro mesh comes with kind of a sponge that you use to kind of apply pressure. 500 RPMs. All right, I'm going to go ahead and shut down, finish my grits, and then I'll come back in a moment. Now what I want to do is apply maybe 3 more coats of super glue. We'll sand it down with the sandpaper one more time and hit it with a final coat, I think, to really give it a nice appearance. I just finished putting 3 more coats of CA glue on. I am very happy with the finish. It is nice and smooth. It's got a beautiful shine to it. And now what I want to do is I want to use a little bit of one-step polish. And I'm just going to put some of this polish on these blanks, buff them up, and it'll really bring out and protect the look of these blanks. Applying the one step is easy. Turn my lathe on, low speed. I guess I'm running about 500 RPMs. I'm just going to apply a little bit of this polish, and then I'm going to bring the speed up. Another thing that I really like about these nylon bushings is, let me tighten that down a little bit. There we go. We got a little slippage. Another thing I really like about these nylon bushings is when you use a polish and you have your standard aluminum bushings on there, sometimes you get some black off the bushings.
I'll show you what I mean. Let me go up to the end here, hit these bushings, and look at that. That is nasty. And I don't want to drag that back onto my pen. So what I've got now is my polish is applied. I'm going to get another rag, and I'm going to buff it off. Really going to crank the speed up. And just buff it like you would, any polish. And see how it's really starting to shine. It's really bringing out the beauty of this deer antler. When I'm done, this antler will it'll look like a piece of marble. It'll shine so brilliantly. That is beautiful. All that's left now is for me to go ahead and attach the beauty ring and to assemble the pins. So I'm going to go do that, and I'll show you the results. These nylon bushings, this was the first time that I used them, and I just want to say they were absolutely fantastic, because when I've applied super glue in the past, I've had my bushing stick to my pen. And many times you can tap it on your bench and they'll release just fine. But I've also had it where they didn't release fine and they pulled a little bit of the finish off of the pen, which basically means you've got to start over with finishing that blank. The glue does not stick to these. It pulled right off. It was perfect. Very happy with these, and I will be using them for all of my future super glue finishes. What I need to do now is attach my beauty ring to my blank, and I'm just going to use a little bit of CA glue. The nice thing is, while I was finishing this tenon also received a coat of CA glue. I didn't bother sanding it. It's a little rough. You can feel the raised areas on it, but that's okay. I think that'll give the glue a chance to get in there and really seat against this metal ring. So I'm going to go glue this on with some CA glue and assemble the rest of the pen. I'm really happy with how this pen turned out. It's absolutely beautiful. I mean, look at the way it shines. The mechanism works very smooth. It's a gorgeous pen. I'm looking forward to sending it off. I told you it was a buddy of mine, Walter, and I'm looking forward to getting this in the mail to Walter, because I really think he's going to love this pen.
I'd like to thank everyone for joining me today for this quick little video. If you like what you've seen, please consider subscribing to my channel. Please consider liking this video, and any comments or questions you have, I'd love to hear them. Have a great day.